Hello and welcome to the Advanced Full Distance Training Program from Scientific Triathlon. I'm Coach Michael, I'm the author of this plan, and I want to thank you first of all for putting your trust in this training plan. I really appreciate that, and I hope you'll find it enjoyable and beneficial. This introductory video will talk you through some principles and tips and advice for getting the most out of this training plan. Let's start with some main principles of training. These should not be news to you by any means, but we still need to go through them because they're very, very important. The first one is consistency. Consistency of training is so important because individual workouts tend to matter much less than we think they do. Really, they don't matter much at all, but solid work over periods of weeks and months, that matters so much. And that's something that we tend to underestimate perhaps. And that is why it's so easy for us to frequently skip or miss workouts, because we don't see how that individual workout will make a big difference to us, which makes sense because it won't. But when we add all of those skipped or missed workouts up, then it can make a massive difference to you over the course of months, weeks, years. So be consistent. Take any decisions you take in this plan primarily should focus on, will this decision enable me to be consistent in my training and keep doing solid work this week, this month, until the race, whatever the time scale is, rather than will this be an epic workout? Because while you do need to do hard workouts on a very regular basis, and you will certainly do that in this plan, you do not need to be doing epic workouts. You don't need to push yourself to do well every single time you do a hard workout. It's okay for workouts to be hard but doable. And that contributes, because that contributes to the consistency. That's the whole reason for why I'm saying this. If you look at like the acute effects of a workout, then yes, going to the well will probably have a workout be slightly more effective than doing it at a slightly easier level, but still hard. But when we add these effects up over weeks and months and years, being slightly more in control of how hard you manage your effort, that is going to help you to do those workouts well, consistently, week in, week out. And not only them, but also all the other supporting workouts, the endurance workouts, and everything. So overall, you will improve that much more by not doing epic workouts, by not feeling that you have to vomit every time you finish an interval workout, but just feeling that it's okay to do very hard workouts on a regular basis, but hard to the level that they push you and challenge you, but they're not ones that like put you right there on the absolute limit. And the second principle, or I guess second, third, fourth, whatever it is that you should follow the intent of the workout and focus mostly on the intent of the workout. That is the most important thing. So, for example, all workouts in this plan have a written description, and you can read it here. This describes endurance ride in zone 2. We're talking about the 5 or 6 zone system here. You should feel free to do this ride on rolling undulated terrain, but say in the prescribed zone. Well, here, if you understand the intent of it, obviously the intent isn't that you need to be 100% of the time in zone 2. If you have a few bouts where you go above it on really steep climbs, or you are coasting downhill, that is of course absolutely fine. But so that is part of understanding the intent of it. But also, it describes, the description here reads, this ride should be controlled and fairly comfortable, but you shouldn't just be lollygagging. If training for non-draft races, ideally do this ride as far as possible in the TT position. Session RP for the ride should be 4 out of 10. So all of this information, it really contributes to you being able to understand, like, what should this ride feel like? How should I execute it so I can achieve the intent of the workout, rather than achieving the sort of I guess just looking at the numbers, and just trying to hit the numbers, because that's not optimal training. Optimal training is understanding the intent of a workout and achieving that. And so that is super important. Another example might be to look at a workout like the 6 times 3 minute intervals here that we do in week 4 on the bike. And because triathletes tend to be quite strong aerobically but weak anaerobically, I tend to prescribe VO2 max work, and I also don't want VO2 max work to be all out. It should be hard, but you should have 1 or 2 reps left in the tank at the end. And all of that, by the way, is of course written here through the description. So So it will actually tell you here that session RP for the workout should be 8 to 9 out of 10. If it was less than 8 out of 10, take that as a sign to increase power next time you do this workout. But anyway, for some of you, it may be that this power target is too easy. It will feel once you get to the last interval that, well, I could have done at least twice as many more. So then you didn't achieve the intent of the workout, and that's fine for the first try, but then you need to realize that because you need to have read the description and then adjust your power up next time. No matter what the numbers there say, even if the plan says do it at 110%, you need to understand, well, that doesn't apply to me because, well, the way my body works and my physiology works, I'm somebody who can do higher powers above threshold. So I need to adjust this a bit, and I need to go to maybe 115, 120%. And that's where I can feel that, okay, I completed this workout and I could have done 1 or maybe 2 more intervals. So I'm fine now. This is the power level I should be at. So these are examples of following the intent of the workout. And that's something that you need to do every single time you train. You need to know what is the intent of the workout and make sure that you execute to that and not execute just to the numbers. Now, moving on from the principles to some keys to executing this program. First of all, I want to talk about a mindset shift I wanted to make. Not necessarily a shift, depending on how you have seen this before, but I want you to see yourself as the CEO of your own athletic progress. You are the one taking decisions at the end. You are the one ultimately responsible. You're the one signing off on all the big deals. The plan is something that works for you. It's like an advisory board member, a very valued one, an extremely useful one, an extremely useful resource, and you should be able to follow it closely, but you should not follow it closely without and leaving all responsibility. You should not just let it do its thing, or you should not just follow its thing without thinking and feeling. You need to be present in thought and in mind, and you should not be afraid to make changes to the plan when you feel it is necessary. And for almost everybody, it will be necessary to make some changes, and you should feel empowered to do so. So that is really, really, really important. You are responsible for your training, not the plan, but the plan will be a great, great useful tool for you to help make the most out of your training. That being said, hold yourself accountable to the plan. Just because you are the boss, the plan is the employee or the resource. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't feel accountable to the plan. You should, even though you're making it slightly individualized to you. So generally speaking, for almost all users of this plan, I think that the success criteria for this plan is you should aim for being able to be 90% compliant. So 90% of the workouts you should have able to have done as planned, following the intent of those workouts, and they should be. You should see them as, okay, I followed the intent of the workout, I'm happy with it, it was a successful workout, good. That should be the case for 90% of the workouts in this plan. And that is something that I talk about a lot, that if you're in my other videos for other plans that I've done before, actually, that I've said that if you're not doing 90% of the sessions for plan, you're not really following the plan. But that being said, so this plan gives you a lot of room to be flexible within that success criteria. We will talk about the adjustable duration workouts, for example. Like you can do this workout at 2 hours, this ride at 2 hours and be successful, or at 2 hours 45 minutes and be successful. So it gives you a larger range. And then there is one exceptional user group, I guess, to where the 90% compliance success criteria holds, and that is some users that really coach themselves and use plans as inspiration sources and knowledge sources to learn, almost read training plans as a book. If it's you, then of course you might just take bits and pieces of the plan and add that to your own kind of self-coaching plan. And of course that's fantastic. I applaud that. But for most users, I think actually having the accountability of even if it's not a coach, even if it's just a training plan, is really beneficial. So probably, even though we're talking about advanced athletes using this plan, I would say 90% of users would benefit from not being too experimental and doing too much of their own tinkering, but actually following the plan, but then adjusting within the plan. So for most of you, that should be the case. But there are others, there are exceptions, and I'm aware of that. So if that's you, then of course things are a bit different. But let's talk about the adjustable duration workouts, because this is something that is new for this plan and the other advanced plans that I haven't done in previous plans. So basically, you will have, like, within a given week, will on average be plus minus 2.5 hours of what is planned. This week 6 here, is nominally 16 hours, 40 minutes of training. But if you do all of the shortest versions of the workouts, like you do, let's see here, you do 1 hour 30, and you do 35 minutes, and you do all of these at the shortest version, 3 hours here on the ride, then you'll end up probably at 2.5 hours less than the nominal duration. And if you do all of the longest durations, then you will end up at 2.5 hours more than the nominal duration. So this gives you an opportunity to tailor the plan to what volume is right for you, both based on what time availability you have, but also based on what you have done before. Like if you're used to training at 10 hours per week, then you probably shouldn't jump to training 14, 15 hours per week on average, although some weeks will certainly be that high, but the average should maybe be more like going to 12, 13 might be okay, or 13, 14 even, but, well, 12, 13 more so than 13, 14, I would say. Either way, whatever it is, you can make sure that you take step improvements or increases in volume rather than jump increases. And likewise, if you are somebody that's actually used to training more than the volume in this training plan, then you can easily make the plan longer to fit what you're already doing. Because if you are used to training on average 18 hours per week, then yeah, continuing to do that will be better in terms of like the volume stimulus that you get than training at 15 hours per week. So you can adjust to yourself, but the important thing is also that you should not take a decision at the start of the plan. I'm always going to do the shortest version, or I'm always going to do the nominal duration that you see here, or I'm always going to do the longest version. This is something that you can decide on a case-by-case basis, on a week-by-week basis. Like, for example, if you're on vacation and you have more time and energy, then you can choose that. Then you can say that, okay, this week probably I will do all of the longest versions. Then still on a day-to-day basis adjust. Like if you feel tired one day, then maybe don't do the longest version, do the shorter version. But you can adjust these things as with life as it ebbs and flows, and with how you're feeling, importantly. So definitely make use of the opportunity to take the shorter versions of the workout when you're feeling slightly run down and fatigued. All right. Next, do not be a slave to the numbers. Again, we talked about following the intent of the workout, and we had this example already with this particular VO2 max interval ride. But when you plug your threshold in Training Peaks in the settings, you'll of course get some particular numbers for, like, these should be done at 350 watts or whatever it may be. And you will see that, and it's easy to just be blinded by that and go and try to hit those 350 watts. And that's not you. Again, this is a bit, maybe we already talked about this a lot, but you need to follow the intent of the workout, and you need to use multiple inputs, not just power. Use heart rate, use RPE, use session RPE, as we already discussed here. So again, this one should feel like an 8 to 9 out of 10. And you should feel like you have 1 or 2 reps left in the tank, but not more than that really when coming to the end. And on the run, use pace and heart rate and RPE. On the swim, use pace and RPE. Even heart rate, if you have it on the swim, is useful. So use a combination of multiple inputs, and knowing that, and combining that knowledge with knowledge of the intent of the workout, and not just getting blinded by the structured workout details here, because that's all well and good, but that's not necessarily what training is all about. So yeah, just don't get too blind about just looking at a single number like 350 watts when you get to those intervals, because training is a bit more complex than that and should be seen more holistically than just looking at one number. And a final point is actually one other thing on that note is erg mode and exporting workouts to Garmin. So, I mean, this is great. This is very convenient and all, but again, if you do that, you shouldn't. Let's say you're exporting a ride to Garmin, a sweet spot ride, and you have some 20-minute interval scheduled, and you get to like a long segment of downhill, like you have 5 minutes of downhill of descending in front of you, and suddenly your Garmin beeps and says that you should start your 20-minute sweet spot interval. Well, of course, with a descent in front of you, I mean, it makes no sense to start the sweet spot interval. So you should take that executive decision that, no, I'm starting this interval later when I get down. I can start going on the flats or going up again. But so you need to, again, here, take that decision, be aware enough, have the wherewithal to not start that interval when you're going downhill and are not going to be pedaling or going to be pedaling very lightly. So yeah, those sorts of things are really important as well, and not be slaves to numbers or devices. And final point of sort of mindset here, keys to executing the plan, is to think that done is better than perfect. So let's say you're going to do this Wednesday run, but you only have 50 minutes. You don't have an hour 20. Well, don't skip the run. Do 50 minutes of running. 50 minutes is a lot better than 0. So you don't always need to be perfect. Doing something is better than doing nothing. And yeah, this applies in many other contexts as well. Even if let's say your indoor trainer is broken and you are doing your workouts outdoors, but you need to get out of the city and there's a long way to where you can actually start doing intervals, and you have a sweet spot workout, and it's a weekday, so you don't have a lot of time, and maybe the only option you have, like you just don't have the time to be able to do 2 times 20 minutes or whatever is scheduled, 3 times 20 minutes. You can get out of the city, you can get to a hill, and you can do 20 minutes of sweet spot, and you can go down, and you can go back home. That's what you have time for. Well, do that. It's a whole lot better than just giving up and not doing anything and just cursing the universe for breaking your indoor trainer. I'm thinking of this example because it actually happened to me, and it was actually quite good to get to try to do different sorts of workouts outdoors, but I realize in some situations, depending on the climate where you live and so on, it might be very, very difficult and frustrating. So again, that's a situation where done is better than perfect, and you should have that mindset. Some practical things I want to mention about executing this plan is to, first of all, you're watching this video, so that's great, and keep watching all of the weekly information videos. That's really important. I'll go through some things there that you can read about in the weekly information, but also some things that you cannot, and just generally talking through some things so you will learn a bit more about how to think about training and how to execute training effectively. And as you have seen in this video, read all of the instructions very, very carefully for the workouts, I mean, so that you really understand the intent of the workout and understand what you should achieve in any given workout. Secondly, I really strongly recommend that you do a habit that I call Sunday planning, or it could be Saturday planning or Friday planning, but whatever it is, before starting your next week of training, you should sit down and map out your following week and put the workouts on your calendar so that you actually have appointments with yourself. This is where I will be training. This is where I'll be doing, or when I will be doing my swim, my run, my strength training, whatever it may be. Map it out on your calendar. But also look through the workout so that you know already in advance what you're going to do. This gives you a chance, if something is unclear, you can email us, support@scientifictriathlon.com, and you'll be able to get an answer before you're actually doing that workout. But also, you can, when you have the harder workouts coming up, that you really need to be on your A game for, and that you want to make sure that, okay, the day before that, I should be very disciplined with my intensity and with everything, with recovery, with nutrition, so that I can actually achieve that hard workout on that day. So it will give you an idea of what the rhythm of the week will be, and that will allow you to adapt how you execute the workouts. Again, there's the keyword, execute the workouts. So you follow the intent of the workouts, but you also know that you know what you have coming up, and you can adjust for that, because there are certainly some workouts that will require a little bit of thinking of them in advance to really be able to do them well. So Sunday planning, a very important practical habit to have. Next, regarding training zones and thresholds, you'll be doing your first time trials in week 3, and then again in week 12. So, of course, after each time trial, we have instructions here for how to find your threshold power and heart rate and set the zones in training peaks and so on. And it's probably familiar to you anyway, for most of you, but you have all instructions here, so it should be fairly straightforward. But that being said, keep in mind that you can adjust, you should feel empowered to adjust your threshold and your zones manually. Let's say you get to a point where a month after testing or a month and a half, you feel that, well, I'm definitely 15 or even 20 watts stronger across the board in my biking than I was when I tested. And then, because you know that the intent of the workout is what matters, not whether you have done some arbitrary test and established an arbitrary threshold, you can realize that, okay, I'm just going to manually add 15 watts to my training zones and my threshold, because that is how I will be able to follow the intent of all these workouts. Because now I'm feeling that when I'm doing sweet spot work, it barely feels like tempo. So be empowered to adjust your threshold and zones manually when you feel that you have improved. It's dangerous to set thresholds and zones too high, so err on the side of caution, but you should have that feeling that you are empowered to change them manually without actually doing a specific test. And one reminder, by the way, on that note, if you check before starting this plan. It doesn't really matter too much because the first 2 weeks are just kind of easy and not super structured anyway. And then in week 3, we will test and assess your zones. But if you have, check your zones and thresholds right now after, sorry for notification, after this workout. And then you will, and then you can check if they make sense. And if you have a rough idea of what they might be right now, what the thresholds for running, cycling, and swimming are, then just update them manually in your Training Peaks settings so that you get off with like something that is more or less correct from the start of the workout. And then in week 3, as I said, you will get more specific with the testing. A couple more things. When adjusting the plan, so for example, when moving things around due to work changes or family obligations and such, try to keep the distribution between disciplines within the week. Of course, first of all, done is better than perfect. If you can get all of the work done within a week and without like putting yourself in a hole of fatigue because you did too much at the beginning or at the end of the week or whatever, but you can get everything done and you feel all right, that's the most important thing. Don't worry too much about these rest of the things because they're more like the cherry on top. But if you have the option to be flexible, then when moving things around to fit your own schedule, try to distribute disciplines evenly across the week. For example, we have 3 swims here in this week, and it's not ideal to have them on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It's better to have them distributed like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Monday, Thursday, Saturday, those sorts of things. Also, try to adjust the discipline or keep the distribution of easy and hard days as it is, or keep the rhythm sort of similar if possible. So usually in this plan, but not always. So check again what your actual week looks like. But usually Mondays are quite easy and Fridays are quite easy. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday are either more hard or moderate or long. So try to keep that rhythm and importantly, the most important thing here is to not lose all of your easy days. So not move things around in a way that makes all of your days of the week moderate or hard, because that's where you might get into trouble. And then I mentioned that, you might, as long as you can, do the training, like done is better than perfect and all that. Stacking training or pushing training forward, that is something that is advised against quite often. And generally that is good advice. But again, I do think that done is better than perfect. And if you miss a workout on a Tuesday and you push it to a Saturday, as long as you can do it and you don't have negative effects of it on the following days, then why not? Why not do it? So I'm not against stacking, but be careful when stacking workouts or pushing forward so that you don't do too much of that and try to cram too much into a short period of 2, 3, 4 days. That is something to just be aware of. And then one thing I want to say as well is when adjusting for fatigue, if you're feeling fatigued for a workout, use a 20-minute rule. So try to do a warm-up and do a little bit of intensity before deciding whether to pull the plug or not because of that fatigue. Because sometimes you feel that actually if you do, let's say you start to do the first couple of minutes of an interval, the first minute might feel horrible, but then you get to the second minute and you feel better. Maybe you take a break and you start the second interval and now you feel that, the second interval is feeling much better than the first one. now you have a positive trajectory and you can actually do the workout maybe. But then you might also have a situation, of course, where, yeah, actually the second start of the interval feels as bad or worse than the first. Maybe you should just cut it there and make it an endurance ride. Or if you're feeling really bad, just a rest day or skip the workout. And if you, for whatever reason, feel too fatigued to work out, so you you pull the plug and you take a rest day, or you felt so fatigued from the start that you actually didn't even do the 20-minute rule, which can happen sometimes, that's okay. But if you take a rest day, for example, on the first workout of the day, you decide to skip that because you're too fatigued to do it, no matter what, no matter how much you tell yourself that, oh, I'm much better now in the afternoon, don't do the second workout either. If you skip one, you skip both. You take a complete rest day. That second workout is not going to give you so much that it's worth the trade-off between potentially risking long-term consistency. Resting completely that day is going to be very beneficial for resetting you, refreshing you. So do that instead. That is much more beneficial. And one final thing, if you get ill, I have a few rules of thumb for how to adjust training. If you're ill for less than or 7 days or less, then just take 2 days easy, then jump back right in where you should be, where the training plan is right now. So you don't go back, but you actually jump in where you should be now. If you are sick and miss between 8 and 14 days, then take a third of the days missed as easy. So let's say you missed 8 days, then you take 3 days easy. If you missed 12 days, then you take 4 days easy. And if you missed 14 days, then you take 5 days easy. And then you jump back in. And again, you can jump in there where you should be right now. But if you miss more than 14 days, then I don't think you should jump back in where you would be now, but actually jump back in where you left off because you have missed too long. Of course, you still need to take those easy days as well. But yeah, that is my general feeling if you miss more than 14 days. So then you need to make some bigger adjustments. I think that's it. If there's anything that's unclear about this plan, email us at support@scientifictriathlon.com. That's the email to use for questions about the training plan. Please keep that in mind. And be sure to tune in for the weekly videos every single week to get all the information and keep learning how to execute the plan to the best of your abilities. Other than that, good luck. I really hope you enjoy going through this plan and that you'll see great results from it in terms of both fitness and performance improvements. And if you follow the plan, but also with the mindsets we talked about, being the CEO of your own training and all of that, I have no doubt that you will. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you at the end of the plan, after your race. Do email me and tell me how it went, because I'm excited to hear about that and get some feedback on the plan from you. Best of luck. I look forward to talking to you in the next video.